Hey everyone, welcome back. So Peripera came out with new lip products. These are their Slip on My Lip. They did come out with two different finishes. There's a matte finish and there's a silky finish. There are 6 shades for their matte finishes and then there are 4 shades for their silky finishes. So they're doing their sales and promotion right now. Each one was about 10,000 won, and to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of lip pencils, especially if they're not going to be a lip liner type of product. So I did leave out the red shades in this. So I did get most of the shades, but I didn't get the red shades. However, I will be reviewing both the matte and silky finishes. These two have different textures, but they're supposed to layer really well with each other. Starting off, this is shade number 1, Over the Moon. This is a light warm shade. It's described as being a coral beige color as well as a base shade. It does look quite similar to the promotional picture. As the name says, it's sort of this coral beige color. Surprisingly, it's labeled as a light shade, but for my natural beige skin tone, it doesn't look too pale. I'd say it's semi-mute, really good for my natural beige skin tone, complements it pretty well. So up close, it does seem to have a semi-brightening effect because of these apricot tangerine undertones. For the formula so far, it does have really good pigmentation, really easy to glide and apply on the lips. It doesn't feel rough when you're applying it, really easy to blend in the cupid's bow. To be honest with you, because this is a matte finish, it does feel a little bit drying for the gradient select, so definitely do prep your lips well beforehand. It doesn't really fill in the wrinkles of your lips, but it doesn't accentuate it as well. Has a very nice even application. Can't really tell for the formula yet. It does feel quite matte on the lips for the gradient select. Let's go in with the full look to see how the formula is like. So this is the full look. It did get a lot more pigmented, a little bit more mute as well. The promotional picture looks more like the gradient look. For the full look, it's a little bit more mute. The more that you apply, the shade does deepen a little bit. For the gradient stick, it was somewhat brightening, but for the full look, it does look a little bit more mute. For some reason, for the full look, it does look a little bit more pink with apricot coral undertones. So it's going to look more like a salmon pink color. I would say it has an airy, velvety like texture to it, similar to the Ink Airy Velvet. Because it is a pencil format, it's a little bit more thick than their Ink Airy Velvets. It feels very lightweight. Again, really easy to blend, really good pigmentation, really good to blur and create gradient look. Quite moisturizing for a lip pencil type of format. Has a really nice even application. Has a very sweet shea butter like scent. Let's go ahead with the transfer test. So I did transfer it a little bit. You'll see there's a little bit of a stain. It looks a little bit closer to the gradient look. It does feel a little bit dry, so definitely do need to retouch. At the bottom, I have Warm Ambassador. On top of that is Over the Moon. And at the top is Loco. Over the Moon looks a lot more similar to Warm Ambassador. Alright, next up we have shade number 2, Come True. This is a light cool shade and it's described as being a soft pink beige color. It's also labeled as a base shade as well. Sort of this bubblegum pink color. And again, it does look quite similar to the promotional pictures. So now for the full look, you can see a more pigmented bubblegum pink shade. It does seem to have more purple in it the more that you apply, so it's sort of this pink purple color. For the full look, it also looks quite similar to the promotional pictures as well, just a little bit more pigmented. This is a light shade and it's labeled as a base color, but I think it also looks good by itself as a full look. This shade, however, is a little bit too cool tone for me, so this will look really good for anyone who is cool tone. For a light shade, it doesn't look chalky or powdery as well, which is quite common for shades that are light or as a base color. I think for the gradient look, it's a little bit more prominent, but the more they apply, the more mute. Here is a comparison swatch with Come True at the bottom, Cool Pink on top, and then Cooling Up. It looks a lot more similar to Cooling Up. Next up, this is shade number 3, Do What Love. This is a neutral light shade. It's labeled to work well for warm and cool tones, and it's described as being a berry pink color. Compared to the previous two, it is a lot more vibrant. Because it's summer brightening, it does have a very playful and youthful look to it. A very beautiful berry pink color. It's not too bright or vibrant, at least for the gradient look, and it does look quite similar to the promotional pictures as well. It did definitely get a lot more pigmented, a little bit more mute as well. It's semi-brightening, but it also is semi-mute, so it complements my skin really well. Very beautiful rosy berry shade. For berry shades, they tend to have a little bit of purple in it, but for this one, it seems to be a little bit more of a fuchsia pink undertone. Here's a hand comparison swatch with Do What Love at the bottom, and then on top of that is Unrose from Roman. Alright, so the last shade that I got for the matte version is number 6, Long Time No See. This is the shade that I was most excited for. This is a warm, deep shade. It's described as being a reddish brown color. It's a little bit similar to promotional pictures, but it does look a little bit more red in person on the lip swatch. Very beautiful terracotta brown type of color. It has a little bit of red in it, but it's quite subtle. For the green slug, it does seem to be a little bit more of a pink brown. Sort of this rosy pink brown. For the full, it got a lot more pigmented, a lot more deep and dark. It's sort of this maroon brown. It's not going to be super red. It's more of a subtle maroon red type of shade. Unfortunately, it does look a lot different from the promotional pictures. It's a lot more rosy on the lip swatch than what you see in the promotional pictures. I think I would have liked it to look a little bit closer to what they have. Regardless, this is a very beautiful shade. It kind of looks like a brick rose. Very subtle red color if you're into that. This is a darker shade, so I'm going to do a swatch again just to see how pigmented it is. So it does seem to have a pretty good pigmentation, a pretty good stain. It did transfer a little bit. You're going to see more of the gradient look. It has a pretty good stain, but it does remove quite easily. I have Long Time No See at the bottom, and on top of that is Radwood from Roman again. A lot of similar shades with Roman's Blur Fudge Tint. I'd say Radwood can go a few shades darker. So moving on to the Silky finishes, this is in the shade number 1, If You Mind. This is a light warm shade. It's described as being a coral shade, similar to the shade number 1 for the matte finish, Over the Moon. On the hand swatch, I was a little bit nervous that this is going to look a little bit rosy on the lips. Right now for the gradient slug, you sort of have this coral shade. Overall, it does look quite similar to the promotional pictures. So for the full leg, similar to how the color looks like on the packaging, you sort of have this rosy tangerine color. The more that you apply, the more rosy it's going to look with coral undertones. Looking up close, you sort of see this rosy fuchsia pink color. Because it is a little bit vibrant, it's going to look rosy under some certain lightings. So for the formula, it does have a semi-shine type of finish to it. It's not going to be totally matte. It's not as drying as the previous one. However, similar to the previous one, it is quite lightweight, airy, really easy to blend, really easy to blur, really easy to apply on the lips. It's easier to apply on the lips than the previous one. It kind of just melts on your lips when you apply it. I would say this is more moisturizing than the previous one. I think it does have a little bit more mousse in it to give that fluffy type of texture on the lips. All right, let's go with the transfer test. So overall, this does seem to have a pretty good stain. Transferred a little bit. It's a little bit more difficult to remove, so I think the stain is a little bit better compared to the matte finish. If You Mind is at the bottom, and on top of that is a similar shade from their Ink Mood Glow Tint in the shade 17. Next up for the Silky finish, we have number 2, Work the Best. This is a light cool shade, and it's described as being a pink purple shade. It does look quite similar to the promotional pictures, at least for the gradients look. And as the name says, you have a pink purple color. It does look more like a bubblegum pink color. A little bit of a violet purple undertone. Very beautiful and flattering shade. And it's not too light. It's semi-mute, but it's also semi-brightening because of the bubblegum pink in this. The more that you apply, the more violet purple you're going to see. Overall, it's going to look like a mauve purple shade. Last but not least, we have shade number 4, Move Like This. This is labeled as a cool deep shade, and it's described as being a mauve color. It does look quite similar to the promotional pictures. So I have this mauve pink. It's very MLBB, very beautiful. For the full, you can see more mute and deep mauve pink shade. You're going to see a little bit more purple undertones, but overall it's going to look like a mauve pink shade. Here's a comparison swatch with Mood like this at the bottom, and on top of that is Custard Mauve, really similar to each other, just a different formula. So for my intro and outro video, I applied Over the Moon as a base, and then Long Time No See in the corner of my lips, just to kind of mute it a little bit. And then I just added Move Like This on top. It's a silky finish, but they do apply really well together. Since it's a lip pencil packaging, I didn't really have high expectations because lip pencils do tend to be drying. However, I was quite impressed with how moisturized it was. Not super moisturizing, but enough for a lip pencil. The scent is a little bit strong, sort of the sweet shea butter scent, so I would keep that in mind. Pigmentation is good, really good at blending and blurring. I think these would be good alternatives if you're not able to get a similar shade that I compared it to. The silky finishes do have a better stain than the matte finishes. They're really easy to blend, really easy to blur, so these will look really good as a blush as well. So that's all for today's video. I hope you found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.